Have you ever enjoyed playing a game so much, but were tired of reading the constant patch notes? Fear not, Synergy Gaming TV is here to help. Welcome to Synergy Gaming TV. I am your host, Synergy, and in this video, we're going to be going over the Alpha54 dedicated server patch notes for your enjoyment. No longer will you need to read the patch notes for the very game that you're playing. Synergy Gaming TV is going to do it for you in a very entertaining and fashionable way. Not only are we going to be covering the greatest points in the patch notes, but also giving our feedback and congratulations to Cold Games for doing such an excellent job. Thank you for watching these incredible patch notes and enjoy the upcoming information from Alpha54 dedicated servers. Welcome back, Subsistence fans. You're watching Synergy Gaming TV. I am your host, Synergy, and today we are going over the Alpha54 patch notes as my first impression. Now, this is really interesting. They've done this, they've been working on this in experimental, trying to figure out how they're going to get it to work, but they've got the dedicated servers figured out. There's lots of other cool things as I skim through this really quickly. Some other great things that aren't revolving around the dedicated servers, but let's just jump into the patch notes and we'll go over all the stuff that we've found. Alpha54 update, dedicated servers, 18th of September, 2020. The Alpha54 update is primarily focused on adding official, dedicated server support, improving the multiplayer client experience, and a number of other fixes and improvements. Off to a great start so far. So the dedicated servers, this is basically like any other survival game. You have the opportunity to join players now in the world on a dedicated server, on a dedicated platform that you can all join, and it stays running all the time so that even when you log off, other people are still playing. I think this is a fantastic step. Now, me personally, I really enjoy the single player experience. I like everything that Cold Games wants me to find, but I do know that when I get to that point where I have consumed all of the stuff that Cold Games wants me to experience in the single player version of the game, the next step is going to be joining other players in the world. So they have the server browser update. So as you can see here, we've got the server browser update, basically just cleaning up the entire multiplayer co-op screen, giving a list of the proper dedicated servers, and just making it look a lot more pretty. Server icons will show, our servers will show an icon indicating whether the player hosted or dedicated. I think that's really, really smart to allow us to decide whether or not to join the server. I think it's going to be great. Clicking on the server in the list will now show granular details on the game's settings and current in-game state. Filters, search, and history. The is a text search. Pretty sure that should be this. This is the text search that filters server based on the name of host by fields. You can also sort the list by name hosted, by ping player count. You can also filter by all servers or history, which will display only servers you previously joined, sorted by the most recent joined. I think that's really smart to add a history tab, because if you didn't write down the name of the server you were in, it'll show you on a list. Profile state, available in both single player and multiplayer. Players can now view detailed stats of their current profile or server. There's a new button under clothing UI to open the profile stats or server stats in a multiplayer game. This new UI will display all players currently on the profile, a summary of their stats, and then a breakdown of various categories. I think stats in any game are really good. It allows the players that like to min-max the opportunity to gather the information they need in order to kind of develop a meta or develop a build or develop strategies. Stats and statistics are the best way to do that. I actually implemented tracking of many of these stats many updates ago, but never added a UI to expose them. I decided to add it now, so I wanted to give server admins visibility of players and their activities on the server. So you can see Cold Games here is absolutely trash at the game. He has 0 stats on anything. Very disappointing considering he created the game. Haha, that's a joke. This means that many of these stats will be populated, even the old profiles. However, many are newly added, so only start tracking once your game has updated. These stats will be a nice foundation for when I implement Steam achievements, future update. Weapon stats shows individual kill stats for every weapon. I think that's really cool, but I don't really know why you'd want to have this, but I think it's a very, very cool feature. Hunting stats, I think that's very, very cool as well, just to see what you kill most of. Looting stats, I think this is fantastic. This is really great to see exactly kind of what you're using in a build, and will help players understand the amount of loot that they need to gather in order to make certain sized builds. I think that's going to be really, really clever. Server admin login. If hosting a player hosted game, the host will automatically log in as the admin. For dedicated servers, admin must log in with admin password that is set in their server config. Okay, so just giving the server hosts and administrators the ability to, or to people to add as administrators, admin kick, ban, unban players. That's pretty standard. As an admin, you have the tab above the players list to list all banned players who are now offline. Selecting players in this list will display a button to unban them. You can still view the stats of the banned player. Banned players will be banned across all profiles hosted by that server. Cool. Verified servers. In an interest of players having a good experience when choosing a server to join, I've added the ability to flag servers as verified, which I can update anytime on a backend server. The idea is that the servers that become reputable and in good standing with the community can be flagged as verified and show at the top of the list. Please reach out if you are a host and would like your server to be considered. That is definitely something Synergy Gaming TV can get into. That would be really, really cool. I'm actually looking into getting another PC here relatively quick, so I could use my old one as a dedicated server. I have NASA speed internet, so that is definitely something that we could consider. Fixed client jumping and landing lag. Previously, when jumping, the client would wait for the server to respond and their landing velocity, causing an awkward lag, delay sound, and camera shake when landing. So that's good that they calculated some things. Obviously, there's some bugs that are still going to be worked out. Improve client, unlocking, crate lag. I'm assuming that's the same thing, kind of just having issues with connectivity to servers. Remove lag from picking up small animals and dropped items. So it's looking like he's moving things from server side to client side to help kind of improve the experience. Player count, this untrodden ground for me. The simulations I have been running on my dev environment are not sufficient to gauge real-world performance stats or player experience. I have started with a max count of 32, however, this may change once servers have been tested. I would urge server hosts to be gentle with your max counts and monitor your performance stats. As a community, I hope we will soon get an understanding of the performance ceilings. If you are a host, please join the server admins channel in Discord to discuss server performance so that I can notify of hotfixes going out, etc. PvE, PvP. I've added settings for dedicated server hosts to customize whether to allow restrict PvP actions on their servers. In particular, these following rules, which can also be viewed from the server list before joining a server. PvP damage can be enabled or disabled. I think this is huge. I'm a big fan of PvP, but I'm also not a fan of your base being destroyed when you're not online. PvP base damage, whether players can damage player base built is player bases built. Player built bases access enemy player base items, whether player can access enemy player base items such as storage crates, refineries, does not include doors, windows, hatches. Hosts could reference the dedicated server guide to configure these settings. Now, I think the only thing that needs to be added here is an option of whether or not PvP base damage is done if the player is online or offline. So my personal preference is that when I'm not there to defend my stuff, I think it's bogus that you can have your stuff destroyed or looted or taken. But when you're online and you're there and you're present, I think anything should go, in my personal opinion. But I think that option would be a great idea for the next patch, is being able to disable damage if the user is not online. But if they are online, then everything goes. Because there's nothing more frustrating then building a base and like making it look all good and like putting in glass windows, and then to come back online and all your shit's gone. Nobody likes that. Renting a server for players wishing to host a server without having to manage their own hardware. There are now several server hosting services that are set up to host Subsistence servers. I would recommend Nitrodo, as I have been working closely with their team to integrate the servers and settings into their control dashboard, although players are free to use any service or hardware they like. Very, very cool. I'd like that Cold Games is giving us the opportunity, or letting us know who he's been working with. Let's check this out. New tree collision. Previously, I had been using speed tree collision primitives for tree collision. As the map continues to expand, this collision becomes buggy, unreliable, resulting in collision not aligning correctly with trees. Furthermore, it seems that this alignment error would differ between client and server, resulting in some jerky server corrections for clients. I've abandoned the previous collision primitives and added my own mesh collision for all trees. This seems to have fully resolved the issue for a price of a slightly increased map file size. That seems, considering he did that all by himself, I think that's pretty amazing that he decided to do that. Thank you, Cold Games, for dedicating your time to this game. As your fan base continues to grow, this game is amazing. Crate labels. Now, this is something I read earlier, way before this patch was released, and I think this is finally amazing. A requested feature for a long time. Players can now craft labels for their storage chests. Once crafted, the label can be switched between a set of preset labels. I've tried to include a decent amount of labels, but please let me know of more that are needed. I may consider adding dynamic text to labels in the future update. I think that would be really, really smart if he added that. The ability for us to modify and just type on them, I think, would be great. Also, that would allow us to have signs for other players in dedicated servers. You could leave messages and, you know, nifty things like you are trespassing signs, and I think they'd be really cool. Even if they added like the ability to have a minefield or something like that, you could put minefield signs up and barbed wire fences and to kind of protect your base. I think it'd be really cool. Fixed client-side bug where buildables show as fully damaged. A common bug reported by players on established large co-op games. When a new buildable was placed, it would sometimes appear as fully damaged for clients, not for hosts. This has now been fixed. Cool little coding bug. New buildable move disassemble rules. Disassemble rules. That's English. In an effort to preventing griefing. English. In an effort to prevent griefing, I have updated the rules around moving or deleting buildables. I now track which player placed which buildable, which allows for the following new rules. Cannot move, delete a buildable if it was placed by another player unless that player is a member of the same base. Cannot move, delete a buildable if it's within another team's BCU range of influence, even if they placed it. Can move, delete any buildable placed by another team if it's within their BCU's range of influence. I think that's fantastic. For old profiles, previously placed buildables won't know about their ownership, but as long as they are in range of a BCU, will be protected as a prior state to this update. Note, these same rules now applied for opening and closing doors, windows, ladders, and hatches. Probably a really good thing, otherwise you just walk into your enemy's base. Base decay, dedicated servers only. One regular piece of feedback I receive from current server hosts is that servers become messy with abandoned bases. There is now an optional setting in the UDK dead server settings.ini. Number players offline hours before base decay. That's a variable that can be that is either tracked or adjusted, but it's definitely a variable, a coding variable. This setting allows server hosts to specify a number of real-world hours that no member of a team have been active for this time. Then all buildables placed by any of them start to decay. The decay time takes around 4 to 6 hours once it has started. I think that's, well, I was right. So it is a variable, but it allows to be modified by the admin. I think that's super clever. I would recommend setting this to something like 5 days, 120 hours. I agree. Or whatever you feel is appropriate to keep your servers clean. If set to 0, the decay feature is disabled. Gotcha. Additional admin cleanup abilities. Please note that there is a keybind that there is a keybind available in the controls menu for admins, which when used in-game will delete any buildable while looking at it. It is bound by default. So you could be a huge troll. There are also several admin commands available via console to help this list, to type help into this list. Wow. English, type help to list the commands. I plan to explain the admin capability tools in the future. Harvesting grown plants. I've always found a little jarring to be able to harvest an entire bed of plants in almost an instant. Now grown plants require the use key to be held down for a short period to harvest them. I think this is a bit more immersive for players who like to farm. I totally agree. I really like the fact that Cold Games is trying to create an immersive experience while also still keeping it a game and still keeping it fun. Because if everything was totally realistic, nobody would play it because it would be incredibly boring. But I think little things like that add just this tiny bit of immersion into the game, and I think Cold Games is absolutely on point with this. Plant bed alignment and network performance. I fixed a bug where plant beds would become misaligned after moving the plant bed. That was always super fun. I remember seeing that for the first time in Cage 848's videos, and he moved some stuff and then the plants were over here, but the plant bed was over here. Super funny. Plant beds have always been a strain on network games. They previously used individual network channels for each plant, so the server was constantly checking if each plant is relevant to every player, which also led to plants disappearing and reappearing for clients. I've rewritten its network code, so now all plants use a single network channel that if the plant bed itself, and is very lightweight for the server. Man, Cold Games, you are just a rock star, dude. Rock star. Cougar Ai update. The Cougar Ai has had some tweaks to prevent certain exploits. I'll be keeping an eye on to see how this plays out. Anytime that you can make adjustments to an AI to keep the meta, essentially exploits, but keeping the meta constantly revolving so that players have to adjust and adapt until the AI itself is adjustable and adaptable to certain situations. When it sees a certain exploit, it does something different rather than just continuing to allow that exploit to be done. That takes a lot of work. A lot of ifs and thens and whens in your programming. Hunter AI, close range combat. Very interesting. I've added new behavior to the Hunter AI to respond to certain close range encounters. They can also now perform melee attacks, so be cautious when rushing in close. I think that's super smart. I also think the dude in this picture is about to get wrecked because that's 3v1 using a double barrel shotgun. So hopefully he's got like dragon's breath up in that bad boy because he's about to get hatcheted and arrowed to death. Save game button. There is now a dedicated save game button in the menu while in single player or hosting a co-op game. Cool, I guess. Exit to main menu. Sorry this took so long. You can now exit to the main menu when playing on a profile. Fixed flashlight shadow artifacts. Very cool. So he just had some weird like imaginary ghosting effects that were corrected. A Discord member reported that weapon flashlight attachments were causing shadow artifacts while in their base. This bug was introduced when I switched to using instant static meshes for base buildables, and now it should be resolved. Very cool. Look at this. Even updates weather effects while swimming. So previously, while swimming, rain and snow effects would display under the water surface and be pushed further away from the player. This is now fixed. Hardcore death penalty on dedicated servers. Obviously, terminating the server if a player dies in hardcore would not be good for dedicated servers. Instead, the player's dropped kit only lasts 2 minutes, so there is effectively lost for the player as it previously was, and they see no HUD beacon. Wow, that is super hardcore. Bat location attack bug fixed. Fixed a rare bug where bats could attack the player through the cave floor. That would suck. Expanded server build limit. I have added network pools for solar panels, wind turbines, power, and mass storage, which results in 20 of each of the item, only using 1 unit from the build limit rather than 1 each. This should drastically increase the amount of buildables that can be placed in a multiplayer game. This change will apply to the existing multiplayer profiles. I'll expand this even further in the future. Awesome. Other notable changes. Fixed occasional glitchiness caused by the player to get hung up on base items. I have experienced that. Fixed bug for client multiplayer games where doors and crates would not remove once destroyed and left with no collision. Fixed hunters often using the incorrect weapon holding states, leading to odd poses while in combat. That's funny. You can now hit escape to exit the map view. Thank you, Cold Games. I know I put that in one of my videos because that was huge. It was just, it's a natural instinct to want to hit escape to close the map. So I'm really glad he did that. Fixed bug where the map could open at a strange angle. Okay, I didn't even know about that. Fixed occasional bug spawning too close to a hunter camp, predator, or potentially inside another player's base. That's hilarious. Spawn in a player base. Heck yeah. Fixed deer and moose not correctly exiting out of their idle animations when fleeing for clients of multiplayer games. Made some design changes to solo and multiplayer launch profile UI and show the individual settings more clearly. I did see that when I fired it up today to take a look at something. Basically, that's just added little dividers and little windows to kind of segregate things, to make it easier to see. Fixed the clam pickup message showing if clicked on a shell after taking the pearl. Didn't even know that was a thing. Game saved message no longer shows for clients and now uses the correct HUD messaging and localized fonts. Fixed short period for seeing is being accessed message when exiting out of accessing a base item. Added a proper jump landing sound when landing in the snow. Previously was a default dirt sound. Cool. I just love how he just finds these little things. These little things, the quality of life changes. So awesome, Cold Games. Appreciate your efforts so much. The local Steam language will now be auto-selected when first starting the game after installing, so players shouldn't need to manually change the language when they first play. Probably really smart considering if you have if it's English, for example, and your native language is not English, can make it a little bit difficult to find the language button to change your setting. Fixed month override not working when first starting a brand new profile. Didn't even know that was a thing. Prevented players stepping on a base item when crouching next to them. Oh, like a glitch. Fixed rare bug that could cause the player to fly into the air when pushing up against the perimeter fence. Interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing either. Fixed a bug that would cause a player to lose movement control when submerging into water while climbing a ladder. Cool. Like a boat dock or something like that. Fixed a bug of increasing power costs of bed spawning. Not showing for client network games, some more multiplayer issues. Bed spawns in co-op, player hosted, hardcore servers now increase the cost after each purchase. Ooh, I like that. That is a wicked change. I love that. There is now a checkbox in co-op launch screen to show our hide game from public server list. I think that's also really smart. Added appropriate sound for when campfires and traps are destroyed from decay. Very cool. Very, very cool. I hope it's loud enough that it actually notifies players. Fixed exploit that allowed 2 team members to own 2 bases that would both auto-generate power and mass. Ooh, so you could like double whammy. Fixed a UI bug that was preventing players from declining a base invite. Fixed exploit that allowed a BCU to be linked to another one. Interesting, so you could use a BCU instead of a BCU extender. Ooh, exploit. To all of the single player players, I'm sorry this update was so largely focused on multiplayer. However, dedicated servers are key planned feature that I've been promising since launch, so I'm excited to finally add support. Stay tuned for further updates, and I hope you have a great week. Cheers, CG. I think this is absolutely okay that it wasn't focused on single player players. This is, like he said, an absolutely huge part of any survival game, adding the dedicated server compatibility, also adding in all these other little fixes, little things like that. I mean, combat needs to be corrected a little bit. It's a little janky in terms of the actual interactions from the player side, not the AI side. But he has done a lot. Cougar AI update, the Hunter AI a little bit. He's done a lot for single players as well. I know a lot of it was focused multiplayer, but I think that's a great patch. So there you have it, you guys. There's the patch notes for Alpha54, the dedicated server patch notes. I hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to hit that like button and get this video out to as many people as possible so that they too can watch a video on the patch notes. Once again, you guys are watching Synergy Gaming TV. I am your host, Synergy, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.